It's almost like a time capsule for lowriding, you know, it says a lot.
She's like a Mona Lisa, one of a kind.
Honestly, that's the car that created the custom lowrider world. It started with that.
It's just become a legend in itself.
It's not just 64 Impala, like there's a story behind it.
Lowriding, it's an art form. You can say it's part of our culture.
It's an expression.
It came from the neighborhood.
We took pride in our cars.
It's in the blood, let's put it this way. You've done most of the work yourself, maybe not the paint job, but you've done all the other stuff like chroming, putting different motors in to make it look good, not to make it faster, of course.
Low and slow. It's the look.
They would burn the coil springs. They would load up bricks and blocks in the trunk of the car so they could have a lowrider.
They were just different, and once you lowered them down like that, it'd bring out all the body dynamics. You would take full-size American luxury cars and lay them down on the floor, and they'd look like, well, they look like UFOs. In the early 70s, 71, 72 is when lowriding really started to take off. It blew up in East Los Angeles, Boyle Heights area. It was a rebellious time. It's the music, the style of girls with the flare pants, the baggy shirts we used to wear. There was a statement to take a 72 Caprice and lay it down on the floor and cross your arms and lean on the car. The youth was just really different, and we were fighting the good fight.
The point of going cruising was to show off your car.
We cruise in the evening. A lot of the good cruising was in the summer where you can have your windows down and people were blasting their music.
You get to show what you have done to your vehicle, how clean you have it, the kind of paint job you put on it. Let them know that this is what you built.
Whittier Boulevard was one of the main focal points for cruising. That's pretty much where the car show was at that time.
There was about 6 or 7 car clubs that still exist today that had certain tastes the way they fixed up their cars.
To get into the club, all you needed was a 57 Chevy, a pompadour, and a plaque. The steps evolved as time grew on. Flying plaque on your back window. It identifies what club you belong to.
You have to pay club dues, you plan club functions, you plan club car shows, and you try to get all the car clubs that come out to your show.
This is like a competition, you know, who can build the better one, who can have a better paint job. That's all it was.
To have the best little custom, iconic things, shaved taillights, changing the grill, cutting the bumpers. I mean, you could go by and there comes a beautiful candy blue and you had to have that color or better. And you would, and then a month later, a better car would come by. Your same year make and model, and I'm gonna put my plaque up in that back window. I'm representing my whole car club. It was very competitive out there. You have to look at it as a unique work of art.
Every man has the ability to create.
They're metal rolling canvases is what they are. Hydraulics work when you want to drive your car kind of low, but you don't want to scrape. But then you got to go up a driveway, so you have to pick it up. If the cops see you and you're too low, or you see one approaching you, you can pick up the car real quick. On Whittier Boulevard, people used to compete for pink slips. If you can hop higher than this, you got to give me your car, and that actually happened. When I go back and think of some of the things that we all did, those car clubs in Whittier Boulevard, it's just like, no, that didn't happen. And it did, and you can't tell anybody, you'll get locked up in a mental institute. It was like a nightclub in Disneyland all in one place. Everybody wanted to have the car that would attract the girls. Whittier Boulevard, you can go down and meet your next girlfriend, of course, but if you had a bone to pick with somebody, I mean, they were gonna be there.
The Boulevard was a place to go shine, but you had your ups and your downs, because there was trouble there at that time, you know.
People didn't know what a lowrider was. They confused us with what they were called the cholos, the gangbangers, which we were not.
Police, especially stereotyped the lowrider because it came from that certain neighborhood.
The cops pulled us over for every little thing, whether it be hydraulics, small tires, or you shaved off your mirrors, how can you see?
Slow down, let him go, let him go, let him go.
There were a lot of gangs through East LA and Boyle Heights. Car clubs couldn't really drive through those neighborhoods with that plaque up, because if they did, they get shot at. Lowriders, they got a lot to lose than someone who has nothing to lose. There's a different world.
That's why we had the Safeway lot, Atlantic and Beverly. It was just to steer away from the negativity that went on from the boulevard. We had a safe spot.
Those were rough times because there were a lot of gangbangers that joined the car clubs back then that couldn't afford a car, and they were called shotgun riders. Those guys in turn got a lot of those clubs into trouble. You know, destroying cars, lighting garages on fire. It was ugly. Everybody just learned from all of the past of all the car clubs for those 4 or 5 years of wars with each other. And as the years went on, after I'd say 75, to fly that plaque, you had to own a car.
Six and Denton, that's where the Imperials Car Club started. It was just a group of guys, a lot of them fresh out of high school. Instead of being in a gang, they wanted to form together, but to stay positive within the community.
First meetings, they were in the backyard, right there. A couple of my buddies, I asked them, hey, let's start a car club. Where are we gonna get the money? Don't worry about the money. Never turn back. We're gonna go forward. Each individual is gonna pay me $1. I ordered the first 10 plaques in 1964.
Not anybody was able to come in to the Imperials. You have to have certain type of wheels, certain type of upholstery, paint job.
You showed up at your meeting, the car was inspected, it had to be clean, in and out, motor, no dust.
They obeyed the bylaws real good. If you were late, you would have to pay a fine.
Once I started getting into high school, I think the Imperials, they were probably the #1 club that was out there with their cars.
Jesse came about the third president, and Jesse was the president for 15 years.
Jesse had never, ever had a cholo in his club. He would talk to them and he would give them advice. And he pulled a lot of them people out of their gangs and stuff.
My dad wanted to help people see that there was a different option. You don't have to be in the streets. When I meet people or they come up to me like, oh, I know your dad, they're very personal stories. I've heard them say like, he saved my life, like literally his life, you know? That's a big deal.
A lot of the members became professionals, lawyers, doctors.
Officers of the law, teachers. They never forgot their neighborhood. We are very, very proud of them.
We were out more expressing ourselves as a club, ate together, had baseball games and picnics, went camping. A lot of these things seem simple to us, but there were members who had never been, not even to the beach.
We used to have car shows over in Huntington Park, and the prize to get in was like a toy, and Jesse and his club will give them out around Christmas time.
They were different. They were different from the other car clubs that were more rougher, just the way the club handled themselves. Respect to everybody else. They dressed different from everybody else.
You wore a suit on Saturday night when we went out. If the girls got dressed, he said the members had to be in suits too.
He always wanted to send that message to remain humble.
Don't be ashamed of where you came from. Respect yourselves, respect each other.
He was very diplomatic for the good of everybody. There has to be somebody there that's up on top to fight that image that, you know, that people constantly want to pull us down on. So he was just a great example to everybody else.
All he wanted was to get people together, and he did. We came a long ways.
My father, he built numerous cars during those times. He did have his own little style.
I asked him once, I said, Jesse, why did you name it Gypsy Rose?
My mom was really into flowers. And she told me, you know, why don't you just do something different with flowers? Yeah, you would be the only one with a car with flowers. Well, yeah, I know that. And she said, there's no people in this world that have something against roses.
Jesse loved roses in it. He told me, he said, one day, he says, I'm gonna build me a car with roses in it.
There was 3 Gypsy Roses in history. A lot of people only know about one.
The first one, it was a 1963 Impala. On the back, just the letters, Gypsy Rose.
The second Gypsy Rose had the 72 roses on it.
The flowers were bigger and the colors were almost the same, but it didn't have the webbing.
That one was only around for 9 months, but people still remember that car. There was a party that went on in the city of La Habra that Imperials Car Club was hosting, and a group came to the party uninvited.
You could throw a party within 2 nights and go on Whittier Boulevard and get that word out, and everybody would know, and you'd have 500 people at your house.
You know where Cuatro Plaza is at? We're having a party down there. You want to go down there? Yeah, everybody's invited.
But if you happen to do that in an area where there was a gang, and they wanted to come and meet girls too. They own that area. So when they come up to the door and you tell them, sorry, you're from a gang, you can't come in, what are they gonna do? After a couple more beers, they're coming back.
They all left this caravan one by one, you know, as fast as they can get out. My dad was always the last one to leave. His car and another car were both bumper jacked. So they were hit with crowbars, bats, whatever.
They busted the front windshield, left front fender, and the rear quarter panel.
So the 63, I always say it was involved in an accident because that's what my father said. Only a few people know that the car was physically destroyed in the city of La Habra. He still wanted to show that strength of leadership to say, you know what, I'm gonna keep going, I'm gonna keep pushing, and I wanna build another Gypsy Rose. So he went and bought a 64 Impala.
I'm doing it again, he says, and I don't care what it takes. Okay, more power to you, Jesse.
Everybody wants a 64 Chevy Impala, just because of the way the car lays on the floor. You know, the body lines, the 64 Gypsy Rose, that's the one that set the standards, and it was ahead of its time.
I mean, it's the first steam car to come out. It made a statement. It was our foundation, our cornerstone of all lowriding.
Most of the cars I saw were solid. I hadn't seen anything like it ever.
Had a TV in the center console, 8-track player, swivel seats came out of a Dodge van, chandelier lights. I'm always getting asked, where did those come from? They came from a garage sale. My Uncle Gil, they added the crushed velvet. They did the biscuit tuck.
I think it was one of the cars that was first built with a biscuit. Just let's do squares, Gil, because diamond tuck, everybody's got diamonds. Okay, we'll do squares. Why? Because you're square? I said, no, Gil, come on. It's like, we used to have a lot of fun.
64 debuted, and it just started raining, you know, taking the awards at the show, and always won for best paint. It was a collaboration between Walt Prey, who was the mastermind of creating the Gypsy Rose, and Don HECKMAN.
I did the car with Walt Prey. Back in the early 70s, it was just a plain Jane, you know, 64 Impala, chemically stripped down to the metal.
Walt went to work with his magic, started laying everything down.
Here's a guy that from birth was just gifted with an artistic talent. Whatever he would put his effort into, it would blow your mind.
That guy was just, they just knew their body panels. They knew their colors like nobody else. He knew it all. There was nobody ever like that man. It took a long time to finish a car like that.
It's the one that somebody went where no one's gone before. They went crazy.
Sometimes we go into the wee hours of seeing the sun come up working on this car. The roof is got cobwebbing, you know, it's got veiling, it's got metal flake, it's got more veiling and cobwebbing and flake. And then after all that's done, there's the roses being put on, the leaves being put on, and then Walt would come along with his brush and he'd give it definition. There's extra pinstriping that goes along on the car, all done freehand and airbrushed. There was no blueprints, nothing to follow. It was just all out of mind. But in the midst of all this, during the weekend, somebody had threw a rag full of paint stripper and it landed on the roof. I peeled the rag off. It was all the way to the metal. There's one bright rose on the roof. And that rose is actually done over Bondo, and that's why it is so bright. You know, it's like a shining star.
There's over 150 roses. There's over 2,000 leaf petals.
There's so much to look at that even if I look at it now, like it's completely different. You know, every time I see it.
I think the 70s helped a lot too, because doing it today, I don't think it would quite look like that, you know. Some people say it's way too overdone, some people say it's just right, and I say it was a lot of fun.
It's like one of the freshest memories that I still have, riding in the Rose, sitting in the passenger seat, and people pointing at the car, going, look, there's Gypsy Rose. It was a showstopper.
Everybody was saying, man, now that's a car.
It was like a movie star being pointed at, looked at. All you heard was Gypsy Rose, Gypsy Rose.
You wouldn't believe that people that have been in my age and then as they were younger and then they got older and they still see the car around.
I've lived in East LA 57 years, all my life, and I've never seen Gypsy Rose in person. And now, for the first time in my lifetime, my wish came true.
You gotta love a car like that it's still around, because if that car wasn't around, all I could do is just be telling you this story right now. It made a statement for all lowriders when it came out in the Chico the Man series, of course.
Freddie Prinze The actor wanted to borrow and use the car in some filming.
So I wish you great success with the show, really. I hope it's a big smash for you.
If it is a smash, the second thing I'm going to buy is a Puerto Rican mobile.
Puerto Rican mobile?
Yeah, 64 Chevy.
60?
It was a very big deal for Jesse to get a phone call like that.
He called me and says, hey, guess what? My car is going to be on TV. I said, your car's going to be on TV? Yeah, Jesse, okay.
The opening credits of Chico and the Man, you can see the life of East LA, HOYO Heights.
Chico, don't be discouraged.
The people just living their normal life, but then you see a lowrider going by, and there was my father driving it.
I know things will be better.
Oh, look, there goes your dad.
It was a big deal.
It finally got us recognition and respect, whether he was from another club or whatever. It didn't make a difference. It was us. Not too long ago before that, I remember black and white TV. Now you got color TV. Now there's a lowrider in there.
It was a start. And I figured that if we started there, something was going to happen.
Soon enough, it hit national attention. The United States was able to see what a lowrider was.
For every 10 cars that passed you, 4 of them were lowriders. Lowriders were just everywhere. It was crazy.
To us, it was something for our own culture. Didn't make us feel good because, you know what? They used to put us down.
The lowrider movement is one of the greatest things that ever happened to us Mexican Americans.
It means a whole lot because, you know, we never expected this to happen. I'm proud to say that I am a part of the VALADEZ family. You know, we're not the richest family, but my Uncle Mando started the Imperials Car Club, you know, then for my father to also step in and create something almost out of nothing, it made me feel good, you know.
My son grew to appreciate the car, and he was pampering the car. And it was something I think a father would want a son to do.
I remember when he got sick, I went to go visit him and we talked, you know, and I realized more and more what he was trying to do and what he was trying to say. He saw generations and generations of his club. He saw decades go by. I did too. And it was like, let's just enjoy this thing now.
And then that's when he told me, he's like, this is your car. And I heard him say that a few times.
He was grateful, but in the same time, I don't think he wanted it to happen as fast as it did because he knew he was starting to lose his dad.
I was with him at all times. I was, you know, doing all of the work that needed to be done to him. And he would look at me and he would say, Gil, brother, how could I ever pay you of all the things that you're doing for me? I say, you already have paid me, bro. You know, it's like, you know, look at you, you know, look at all the things that you have done in your life.
Mondo says, I'm proud of you. You're still married with the same wife. Here, hold my hand. He tells me, I know where I'm going. He tells my wife, please take care of my brother. It was hard for me to see Jesse going. They called me at 7 o'clock in the morning. I made it. It was Jesse was gone already.
Without him, I mean, you know, a lot of us wouldn't be here in a lot of different ways. My old memories and everything I did were great, but he's not around. See, a piece of me died when he went.
Gypsy Rose was there when my father passed. I almost had to set up the services like if I was throwing a car show. And I asked, you know, Mom, this is how I want the procession. He's gonna go down Whittier Boulevard one more time. And we did. Everybody still remembers that procession because it was miles of lowriders.
There was close to 400 cars.
Everyone followed behind him.
It was a hard day, but you know, my father's suffering ended. You know, it's like one door closes, another door opens.
I stood up because it was just so overwhelming, and I turned around and I saw faces I've never seen before in my life from the very back of the church, standing on the walls, and this line, and it kept coming and it kept coming. That's when I knew that my dad did something great for all of these people.
He did all in love to influence other lowriders.
His strength is still there, and like he is still alive as long as we continue those stories and continue the legacy that he has said.
I'm proud of the club. I'm proud of my brother. I'm proud of Gypsy Rose.
It's really something to this day to see it still out there, you know, and the impact is just incredible. Kind of makes you feel good, you know, that you were part of that.
I have young kids. They come to me for an advice. Should I do this, or how should I build a car? If you're gonna build it, do it all the way. I said, look at Gypsy Rose. Look where it's at right now.
Who would have thought that the Gypsy Rose will be on a tour to Japan? You know, who would have thought that Gypsy Rose will be in Washington, D.C.?
To us, lowrider will never die.